Hello, and this is the Browserless Internet. So, this is part of my future series where I actually go over things that are going to happen in the future as technology progresses. And this is just one of them. And I'm going to give you some timelines on some of these things too. So let's talk about that. What is the overall thought of the browserless internet? Well, what's going to happen is AI assistants are going to replace browsers as how people access the internet and use the internet. Now, how does this occur? Well, let's talk about it. First, let's talk about how do people use the internet right this minute? Well, people use the internet for four things primarily: information, navigation, getting into accounts, going to stuff to do things, transactional, which is paying bills, shopping, and then last one being entertainment. So that is the current usage of the internet today. Now, what we want to do is we want to look at, these are the behaviors. It's the behaviors we're looking at. How we do them today does not mean that's how we're going to do them in the future. So we want to look at that. Now, we're leaving, and this has been 30 years, we've had the browser dominant era. Now realize, 30 years ago, I'm at the time that I'm making this video, I'm 62. I remember very vividly before the internet, before browsers. But from the 1990s on, the browser has been the dominant access method of the internet. The problem is that you use the browser. In other words, the browser is, if you know where something is, of course we got Google to search for it, we go out, we run those queries, we go to the website, we do everything. Okay, and we may have to visit multiple sites to get what we want done. Well, guess what? That's all getting ready to change. What we're moving into is the concept of the AI assistant. Now, we actually have AI assistants. Anybody who has the new version of Alexa, or actually has an even older version of Siri, is, and then of course there's Google Assistant too, you're used to speaking to those in a natural way, and it handles the commands, and then it does things. Now, Alexa, as of the filming of this, is just recently upgraded to a more AI-based interface from a purely transactional interface where it could just handle simple requests. And guess what? Every time you make a query into any one of those that it doesn't know how to handle, you're making it smarter. Because what do the engineers behind the scenes do? They look at those queries that weren't handled and they figure out how to make them handle them. Okay? Well, that's an interaction that is not based on browsers. You can get information very readily from any of these assistants today without a browser. Now, let's look at the time frame, because this is more than just Alexa getting smarter, even though it is possible that Alexa could be your AI assistant. But then what happens is, and as you look at it, you'll see that it actually migrates to being able to do many more things than what it's capable of doing right this minute. So what we have right now is we have AI assistants that are in some smart devices that are with a service, and we're actually in the process of early adoption. I have the Alexas, the Alexa and the Alexa app, and on the ones that I have that have screens, I've already started testing the AI-enabled Alexa service. However, it's going to go out beyond just those smart devices. So where will it be built into? Well, essentially into everything that can handle having it, which right now includes phones, computers, and smart devices. Slowly, well, we may think of it as slowly, but it actually is amazingly rapid adoption of technology. These will become to dominate. So you're going to have this hybrid between AI and web. But as that occurs, you'll see the AI move to the forefront and the browser move to the back end. And then by 2031, which may seem, oh God, it's a long way off, 6 years, you're looking at full browserless experiences. That doesn't mean that you're not going to see visual representations of information and data. You will. But think of it this way. The AI assistant can say, I've found this information. I've got these flights. I've found this recipe. Do you want me to put them on the screen that you're closest to, which may be your television, because they can do that right this minute. Or it may be your computer, or it may be a screen that's sitting on your refrigerator, because those are pretty common now. Or a screen that's sitting anywhere in your house. Point being, it's not a browser anymore. It's moved outside of the browser interface. So, as with every technology, you've got people that are futurists, people that look at the technology and say, when will this actually occur? And there's different types of adoptions. And the adoption, like the highly optimistic adoption, you're talking about that adoption occurring relatively rapidly. The big adoption is with computers is when you see the companies put the AI as an embedded software system at the operating system level. The most likely scenario that we actually have would be what would be called a moderate. And you're actually going to see the integration occurring over time. And because there's a lot of things to work out besides just the technology. The optimistic model assumes that technology is the only barrier, and it's not the only barrier. And then there's a more conservative. And the reality is actually there's probably going to be pieces of each of these, because the browser isn't necessarily going to disappear, just like the vinyl record has not disappeared. They're still going to be around. But you're going to see a transition into this AI-based interface. So what's going to stop it? If you're not talking about the technology, and notice, it isn't the technology, it's not what you're dealing with. First, the concept of trust. You need to be able to have, these are personalized AI, and you got to be able to trust them. Now, what you're really doing is you're putting trust into the company that's behind the AI, that they built something that has the security and the privacy that you want. You've already done that if you have a Siri. You've already done that if you have Alexa. Okay, you've already done that if you have Google Home. Okay, then you need something that is reliable. It's got to work. It's got to be accurate. It's got to be useful on a consistent basis. Now, all of this going on also has this concept of integration, because I live a lot by my Outlook calendar. Okay, this is going to need to integrate with the Outlook calendar. But maybe that Outlook calendar goes away and the AI manages its own calendar, and the Outlook is just an input. Okay, the apps and the devices and the software that I use. Then the last piece is nobody's going to do this if they can't make money at it. So you need a sustainable model. And it really is, do we pay for this as a service? So some people are going to have AI assistants that they pay for and others aren't. Or is it going to be that companies that run services, such let's say like Expedia, which runs a travel service where you can go online now and book things, is the AI going to integrate with that travel service? And then there'll be a fee transfer where the travel service is a part of the fee that they charge for booking the flights. It goes back to the AI that does this. These are all going to be worked out by people who run these businesses as partner deals, and the ones that work well will survive, and the ones that don't will not. It's really that simple. So, what are you going to look for to see when this happens? First, and right off the bat, okay, the launch. Now, there are improvements that have been technically put in to many of the softwares that we use, like the Siri, which has moved back some of the AI pieces that they're going to be rolling out until 2026. There's reasons for doing that. So there are some delays, but there's other ones that have not experienced delays. Then the next thing is the concept of the persistent profile. It knows you, which means that you have a persistent profile. And then you'll see the ecosystem shift, which is already going on, even though you're still thinking, oh, I go to browsers all the time. Every time you say, Alexa, play something, or Alexa, or Siri, or whatever, you're already part of that ecosystem shift. And then once you start seeing the adoption occurring, it will speed up. It will occur much faster and faster over time. So basically, once you've got the momentum moving in that direction, it will go that direction very quickly. So how is this going to work? Let's just take some scenarios. All right. Scenario 1. This is an informational task. Now I'm going to name my AI is going to be Sam. Okay, it's just a great name. Hey Sam, is intermittent fasting safe for me? Well, the AI knows the context. It knows who you are. It knows your age. It knows your condition, medications, everything that you know. And it's able to go out and get information from places that have information. Now, whether these are things that are scraped off of browsers or whether the AI actually has it in a massive data repository, which a lot of AIs do, it knows how to get that. And it actually is smart enough to have a logic engine to know how the information and how it relates to you. And then it gives you a personalized summary of how this would affect you. Now, the one thing for trust is that the AI has to have full transparency for you to trust it. So you can say, I'm skeptical. Where did you get this information? And it's going to be able to tell you where it got its information. And it can also, you can be the judge of whether the information is reliable, or you can ask it, how reliable is this information? It does require that level of trust. And there will be an incentive for the people who have these AIs to actually make them trustworthy, because all you need is it not being trustworthy, and there will be competition in this field. They will, because this is control of basically billions of users if you do this right. All right. What does it mean? Well, the one thing about this that's important about this information is it understands the context. And actually, it can go as far as understand how your voice, if it's an audio-based interface, okay, it knows it knows you, and it knows information, and it can do a lot of things. So, if you read through this, I'm not going to read all these because I like to make my videos short. I'm sure everybody just reading this can do this, but really it's going to give you the information that you want to see, and it's going to be able to tell you. If it's not sure, it can tell you. If it wants to recommend something, it can tell you. If it says that you need to get more information or you need to ask more questions, it can suggest them and do that. And you actually see that today with the current AIs that are textual based. So let's do a transactional task. And this is one of my favorites because this is just something, book a last minute flight to Chicago. Okay, and you know what? Use if you can, use my frequent flyer miles, and I'm on a budget of around $300. And it gets your authorization. It may do it up front. It may do it at the end. It does a bunch of comparison. It gives you some information about the different options that it's found, but it's really only, it's not going to go back and get 100 results. It's going to get back the ones that are actually relevant to you. And then you say, oh, I want that one, and it books it, ticket stored, your calendar's updated, it figures out what you need to bring, okay, and it also keeps track of that flight because you just booked it, and it will tell you if there's anything going on with the flight. It'll tell you if, for example, TSA is going to be backed up and you need to show up to the airport early. Those are all things that this will be capable of doing. So these are the pieces. It means that it has to be able to go to the APIs. If you're not a technical person and you're watching this, an API is the computer interface for, let's say, the airline or for a travel agency that it's able to talk to and do all those things that you see that you've kind of grown accustomed to with sites like Travelocity and Expedia and those. Then it needs to be able to look at the recommendations that are pertinent to you specifically based on the information that you gave. And if the AI needs to get more information from you saying, well, do you mind if we move from this airport to this airport because I found a much cheaper flight that way, it's going to ask you. It's going to say, because it knows that you can make those decisions. It does the full execution securely. It knows your information, or it gets your information about how to pay, and it takes care of it. And then it supports. After the ticket is sold, it does everything else. If you say, oh, you know what? Looks like I'm not going to go after all, the AI can take care of that also. So any type of cancellation, if it sees a delay, if it sees the flight being canceled, if you cancel, all of that can be taken care of. Last one, an entertainment task. And there's a lot of the entertainment tasks. There's other tasks that I'm not going into, but I'm going to kind of finish up with the entertainment task being the last one. Hey, is there anything, I want to watch comedy, can you find me something? And it knows what subscriptions you've got, with what services, it knows what you liked, it knows when you may be able to watch them, and it may bring you back, depending upon what you like, it may bring you back a number of options, and then it can just throw it up on the screen wherever you want it. And anything else that you want to know, hey, Sam, who is that actor? Sam, what else has that person been in? And it can throw that stuff up on the screen even while you're continuing to watch what you want, unless you say you want it to pause. Those are all things that you're going to actually find it capable of doing. So here's the pieces. This isn't really technical, but the user experience that you're going to have is pretty much going to be a common user experience. The intent, which is your intent, what you want, is the primary piece of the user experience. And as it learns you, it gets actually much better at that. And you are in control of the disclosure. Hey, I want to know if this is healthy for me and that I'm eating. I'm eating this. Hey, look at the screen. Here's what is this? Can you recognize what this is? Because what's the nutritional content of the food that I'm eating? And you can say, well, I don't agree with you. You're saying that this is totally unhealthy. Can you give me the sources? That's progressive disclosure. You can go into as much depth as you want. The ability to do authorization based on that can be secure, and that you've actually got an entire audit trail. This is what you're looking at. This is what's being built. I'm not making it. I'm just these are ideas, but this is what's actually happening right now. And okay, time to geek out. You've got the technology. Technology is simple. You've got what we mean by persistent personal profile is its ability to remember who you are. You've got autonomous browsing, which basically means the AI can go out and grab information without all by itself. It doesn't need you to guide it. Browserless APIs mean that right now, a lot of times when AI goes out and gets information, what it does is it goes out and it screen scrapes existing websites and then tries to interact with the interface that a human would be. But an API allows it to interact with in a natural way that the computers would do it. And then you're going to have an authentication that the AI assistant's going to have to be able to do. That's that identity layer. And for this to work, it's got to have privacy and transparency. It's not going to get adopted otherwise. I know a lot of people are really perfectly comfortable with giving away all their personal details, but you're going to have a lot of people who aren't, and that's going to be an important part of it. And then you being able to control it, and you being able to get back, and then the other piece, which is the human fallback plan, that there is a human fallback that you can go to. It's going to behoove the people who develop these to make it as good as possible so that they don't have a high reliance on human fallback. So how is this adopted? Well, it's right there. Okay, simple, go from read-only to having a little bit of automation capability, then to being able to delegate tasks to the AI, then to a full partnership to the AI itself. You're going to see it happen piece by piece by piece. We're boiling the frog is what we're doing. It's a terrible way to put it, but it really is. I mean, you're giving away a lot of trust to a machine. Now, for website developers, this is why I did this entire thing, was to get to my students who I teach to build websites, because that's what I teach right now. Guess what? That class will be irrelevant in 5 years. It'll be completely irrelevant. But it doesn't mean that it's completely irrelevant. So what does it mean? It means that instead of building websites, you're building APIs. You're figuring out how to do the structured data that can be read by an AI. And you're also figuring out how to optimize the transaction between the two. Now, also realizing, and this is where it gets a little bit tricky, because the browsers aren't actually going away. Nobody's going to say, I'm just going to take my browser off completely and just let people that are using the AI figure out how to do this, because there's going to be people who want to do it directly. Now you need a hybrid interface. You need an API and you need a website, but they all want to be able to work off the same base and data set. So the building of the websites themselves changes, and the websites themselves are going to have AIs built in at the server level for people using those websites. All of that's going on at once. It becomes amazingly more complex. So you're going to need to be good at all of that if you're going to be the people that support this technology. Quote, you can use this quote. You can attribute this to me if you want to, but by 2030, using a browser is going to feel like dialing up the internet. That whole thing. The web isn't going away. Just like vinyl records didn't go away. But it is going to be in the background. So what's our timeline? It's 2025 right now. We're looking at full mainstream adoption in 5 years. 2030. Intent replaces navigation. Instead of hunting for what you want and doing all the work, you know what you want to do and you let the AI do the work. You must have trust in an AI that does not have trust, that you cannot trust, you are not going to use. And that means that the people that are building these things have to build them secure in a way that you're going to trust them. And it's just an evolution of the web. 30 years ago, we didn't have browsers, okay? And I know for people that are less than 30, they think that's for forever. But if you're 60 and you remember your first computer in high school being a TRS-80 that you've actually fed, oh, actually my first computer I fed with cards. I mean, I had cards that I punched out, threw into a machine, and they read the cards, went flip, 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 and it went off to a computer, and then I waited for 20 to 30 minutes, and then a green printed printout came, and I got my results. Things change, and that's, you think, oh, wow, well, but he's old, he's 60. Yeah, when you get to 60, come on back and look at this and think, oh, wow, things change. So it will. I mean, cell phones, those are, for me, that's like a recent development, is the cell phone. So, there's some takeaways here. Technology changes, everything changes. And my last little plug is stop making AGIs. We don't need Aggies. We don't need them. What we need is better AIs as tools, not an Aggie, which is more than an Aggie. May or may not be a tool, because you're saying, I want to build something that is as smart as a human and has consciousness. That's what you say when you say you're building an Aggie. Do we need that? No. The only people who want to build that are the people that are wealthy enough that they say, well, I can get rid of people by using an Aggie. And if you're the people, guess what? It isn't so great. AIs is excellent tools. That's a totally different story. These are decisions that we can make as we move into the future. Thank you much. It's Dr. Ron signing out. I hope you enjoyed this video.